Hello and welcome to this week's practice with a big focus on gentle core engagement, whether it's still or moving. Today our practice is mostly going to be on the floor, and you may want a blanket to pad your knees when we get to hands and knees, but beyond that, you don't really need much of anything. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is, while laying on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor, we are going to revisit the pelvic tuck tilt with gentle core engagement that we started last week. But this week we're going to take it just a little bit further. So this time, still a pretty quiet belly, you're going to start to roll the pelvis back. Pubic bone is lifting, and we're going to take it just a little bit further. So we're just lift that pelvis off the floor. We're not lifting up into a bridge. We're just lifting that pelvis off the floor and then rolling it back down. Relaxing, tucking, rolling, gentle lift. Roll it back. Now, as we move more towards lifting the pelvis off the floor, you're probably going to notice a little more pressure in your feet, and it might be that much more tempting for your abdomen to really get involved. But we're trying to keep it as little as possible. So even if you're just starting to lift that pelvis off the floor the tiniest little bit and then going back down before you get that like bread loaf belly engagement or like a lot of tension through here like you would in a crunch, that's fine. Just keep it as small as you need to. Okay, one more time. So rolling up, starting to lift, lowering, letting it roll back. Okay? Now, from here, we are going to revisit dead bug, which we also did last week, but this time we're going to get the legs a little bit involved. We're going to have the legs straight up in the air. Now, this might feel like it takes a lot of effort. If you want to, you can take a blanket, you can fold it up, you can put it under your pelvis, just your pelvis, so that holding your legs up in the air just feels a little bit easier, like less work. We're going to have the arms reach for the ceiling like we did last week, and our legs are just going to stay static. Gentle core, still breathing, still feeling that rib cage expand and retract, but we're going to revisit that one arm at a time, lowering and rising. And the hope is that once again, it's just the one arm that's moving. There's not a lot of change happening through the shape of the spine or the level of engagement through your abdomen. And now also your legs, okay? One more time on each side, okay? So one on the right or your left. I don't expect you to always be on the same side as me. Bring it back up. One more on the left. Bring it back up. Okay, and you can let those feet return to the floor. You can just hang out here for a moment, let things settle, breathe. If you did place a blanket under your hips, feeling that nice bit of inversion, maybe some space opening up in your low back. Okay, and then when you're ready, we're going to lift the hips, take out that blanket if you had one there. And we're going to transition to our hands and knees. So whatever works best for you and your body, go for it. Okay, so this is where we're going to take the blanket, potentially, if you want it, and just fold it a bit so that you've got some padding underneath your knees, okay? So, finding tabletop. You can have your toes curled under like this. You can have them like this if you want for this first little bit. But we're aiming to have hips stacked over knees, neutral spine, shoulders stacked over elbows over wrists, neck is long, looking towards the floor. we are going to visit that tandem hip and shoulder movement we did on our backs last week in hands and knees. So we are going to shift the bum back, not all the way necessarily. We're just going to shift the bum back and then we're going to shift it forward. And the hope is that the spine is staying pretty quiet. It is going to be moving back and forth through space this time in this hands and knee version, but we're not doing cat-cow backs, okay? So we're just doing some body rocking. All right. And now do curl your toes under. We are just going to gently engage the core, so that gentle fish hook belly button towards the spine, and we're going to hover our knees off the floor. You can drop them whenever you want. You don't have to hold it for long. We're just going to repeat it a few times, okay? So you can hover. As you hover, keeping that neutral spine, trying to focus on keeping that integrity through your shoulders so you don't just collapse through your shoulders or hyperextend your elbows or bend your elbows. We're keeping a nice, quiet shoulder girdle complex, rib cage complex with integrity as we just hover the knees and lower and hover and lower, okay? So now we're going to visit the beginnings of an exercise called bird dog. It's basically the hands and knees version of dead bug, okay? So we're gonna be hands and knees. I personally like to have my toes curled under for this. Your weight is going to shift into one hand more than the other, again, without losing that integrity through your spine, through your shoulder, through your elbow. So you're lifting one arm and it's reaching forward. Now, I just got my flu and COVID vaccine yesterday, so my arms are a little reluctant to move a lot. So I'm just gonna keep it kind of chill. But this is sort of the idea that we're going for. The arm is raising and reaching forward. And it's not meaning our back dips or we twist funny. It's just the arm raising forward while the two knees and the other hand take our weight and our spine stays neutral. Okay, one more time on each side. All right. Okay, so we can come to a seated position. Your hands can rest on your knees. You can sit tall. If you want, you can do some little cat-cows if that feels good in your body. You can do some body circles if that feels good in your body, just to kind of work out all of that stable, still relationship that we had going on just now between the shoulder blades and the rib cage and the spine and the hips. All right, return to center. Take a couple breaths. Okay. I hope that you enjoyed that practice. Thank you for moving with me, and I will see you next week.